Right, I'd like to run through some housekeeping arrangements. So, first of all, please note that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed to the Council's YouTube channel. The stream will be available to watch after the meeting has ended. By attending the meeting, you are giving your consent to being filmed. A notice with further information has been provided in the public gallery. The Council's constitution enables members to remain seated while speaking at this meeting. Under the openness of local government bodies regulations, people may film, record, tweet or blog this meeting, and this is outside the Council's control. I would also like to remind councillors and the other people attending the meeting that the fire exits are to the rear and side of the room. There are no fire alarm tests planned for this evening. Could I also ask that everyone turns off their mobile phones or switches them to silent so that the meeting isn't disturbed? Councillors are unable to vote on any item if they leave the room during the consideration of that item. Right. First item on the agenda is apologies for absence. So I have had apologies from the following honorary alderwomen and honorary aldermen. So that's honorary alderman Bush, honorary alderwoman Ransom. I've also had apologies from the following councillors. So that's Councillor Harper-Davis, Councillor Wesley, Councillor Matthews, Councillor Bradshaw, and I've also had an apology for Councillor Lowe, who may attend, but if he does, he will be late. Are there any other apologies? Not seeing an indication. Right, the first thing I have to say is that it's with great sadness that I report the passing of Honorary Alderman Joe Tormey on Saturday, the 6th of June. Honorary Alderman Tormey served for 24 years as a borough councillor between 1983 and 1987, and then 1991 to 2011. As a councillor, he represented Loughborough Shelthorpe and Loughborough Leamington wards and spent time participating in many committees. He was the deputy leader of the council from 1995 to 1999 and mayor of Charnwood during 2007 to 2008. Outside of the council, Mr Tormey was the centre manager at Fearon Hall. He was well known in the borough as a dedicated councillor. In proposing the appointment of Joe Tormey to the role of honorary alderman at full council in 2011, Councillor Mears said of Joe that he had electrified the council chamber and graced it with his wisdom and charm. I invite my fellow councillors to observe a minute's silence in Joe's memory. I would now like to ask the Mayor's chaplain, Liz Newton, to say a few words.
Mr Mayor, councillors of Charnwood Borough Council, good evening. It's lovely to be with you for this my first time as the Mayor's chaplain. Are you following the football? I have to confess it's not my cup of tea, but I do know that Scotland triumphed over Haiti yesterday, which no doubt pleases our Mayor. He is grinning. What I also know is that football's governing body, FIFA, has a set of core values: transparency, accountability, integrity, solidarity, courage, justice, and democracy. Just what you'd expect for a large organisation. So it's no real surprise that Charnwood Borough Council's corporate strategy shares pretty much the same values. Being a local councillor, having responsibility for major decisions which affect the lives of the people you serve, whether it be through sheltered housing policies, customer experience strategy, or considering the polling districts, it's no small task. To simultaneously coordinate all the areas of the council's remit must be like playing keepy-uppy with a dozen balls at once. When so much is at stake, it could be very easy to forget the values at the heart of the debating and decision. A prayer. Living God, you value transparency, accountability, integrity, solidarity, courage, justice, and democracy in your people. Give us a due sense of our responsibility towards others, the poor, the hungry, the sick, the homeless, the oppressed, the lonely, the weak, and the sorrowful. Help us to recognise when we have strayed from your values. Guide us back to the way we know is right, so we may serve the people of this borough and one another justly and respectfully. Amen.
Okay, I will now move on to item 2, and that's disclosures of pecuniary interests and other registrable and non-registrable interests. So, for information, disclosable pecuniary interests and registrable interests relate to entries that are included or should be included on a councillor's register of interests. Non-registrable interests relate to any other matters. I will now call on the Chief Executive to report on disclosures of interest in the business to be considered at this meeting, which have already been made by councillors in advance of the meeting.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have received no disclosures prior to the meeting. Are there any from the floor? There appears to be none. Oh.
Councillor Mayor.
Mayor, on item 6.7, social media guidelines for members as a member of the LGA. Thank you.
If one of us is doing it, I better do it as well. I'm a member of the LGA.
Councillor Gray. Okay, thank you. Are there any further disclosures? for the same reason. Okay, Thank you, councillors.
Okay, thank you. Right, moving on to item 3, that's the minutes of the previous meeting. So, I move that the minutes of the meeting of the Council held on 11th of May 2026 be confirmed and signed as a correct record.
I second the minutes, Mr Mayor.
Does anyone wish to raise anything on the accuracy of the minutes? If so, please state the minute number. Right, I'm not seeing that any issues have been raised, so I take this to signify that the minutes are accepted as a correct record. Right, thank you. So I'll sign the official minutes after this meeting and pass them to the Deputy Monitoring Officer for archiving. So let's move on to the next item, item 4, which is announcements. Right, I have the following announcements to make. The Quorn Midsummer Fete is being held on Saturday 20th June in Stafford Orchard Park, Station Road, starting at 10 a.m. To start the week leading up to the day itself, we're also holding an Armed Forces flag raising ceremony on Monday 22nd of June, starting at 10 a.m. around the flagpole in front of the main council offices. Armed Forces Day itself is on Saturday 27th of June in Queen's Park, Loughborough, starting at 11 a.m. With the moment of reflection taking place at 1:30 p.m. Then you have Barrow Street Market, which is being held on Saturday 28th of June, starting at 11 a.m. And then you've got the Loughborough Mela, which will be on Sunday 9th of August, starting at 12 noon in the marketplace in Loughborough. Then you've got Loughborough Pride, which will be on Saturday 22nd of August, starting at 12 noon in Queen's Park, Loughborough. And then, last but not least, you've got the Syston Summer Fair, which will be on Saturday the 4th of September, starting at 12 noon in Central Park, Syston. So 4.2, Leader's announcement. I call on the Leader to make his announcement.
I have no announcements to make, Mr Mayor.
Right, moving on to 4.3, Chief Executive's announcements. I call on the Chief Executive to make his announcements.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have no announcements to make.
Thank you. So moving straight on to item 5, which is petitions. Are there any petitions to be presented? Right, I'm not seeing any petitions to be presented. Okay, thank you for that. Right, so moving on, as Mayor, I have agreed an agenda variance to enable the motion on notice to be considered at this point in the meeting. So we're now jumping to item 9, motions and notice. So there is one motion on notice on the agenda submitted in accordance with full council procedure rule 9.12. The motion was submitted by the Conservative group and is about the future of social housing provision in Charnwood. So that's 9.1, item 9.1, future of sheltered housing provision in Charnwood, and that will be in page 162 of your papers. So, Councillor Monk, would you like to introduce the motion or notice regarding future of sheltered housing provision in Charnwood?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, I move the motion on notice about the future of sheltered housing provision in Charnwood on page 162. So this motion is not about defending outdated buildings. It's not about pretending that the schemes do not have challenges. And it's not about ignoring the financial pressures facing the housing revenue account. What this motion asks is something much simpler. Before we permanently dispose of 5 sheltered housing schemes, before we lose 179 homes, let us be absolutely certain that every viable alternative has been properly explored. Because once these sites are sold, there's no going back. We've repeatedly heard the phrase that all options have been explored and exhausted, yet the Council's own reports tell a more complicated story. Earlier discussions considered partnership models, joint ventures, alternative delivery mechanisms and redevelopment options. We know Homes England's funding exists for specialist and supported housing. We know other councils and housing providers across the country continue to invest in modern older persons accommodation. And we know that ARC's own evidence identified increasing demand for older persons housing as our population ages. This is why I believe it is entirely reasonable to pause and ask one final question. Have we genuinely exhausted every realistic opportunity before choosing permanent disposal? Because this debate should not be reduced to whether outdated bedsits are difficult to let. The real question is whether there is a future need for modern, accessible, supported accommodation for older people. I believe there is. Successive governments of all political colours have recognised the importance of helping older people live independently, safely and with dignity in their own communities for as long as possible. Adult social care policy is built around prevention. The NHS talks about prevention. Our own local government reorganisation submission talks about prevention. Sheltered housing is prevention. It prevents loneliness, it prevents isolation, it helps delay the need for residential care, it supports well-being, and it enables older residents to remain active members of their communities. This is not simply about bricks and mortar, it's about people. It's about neighbours looking out for one another, about residents feeling safe, and maintaining support networks that have been built up over many years. I know there will be members of this chamber who may not agree with me on every aspect of this issue, but I would ask colleagues to look beyond the immediate financial pressures and consider the longer-term consequences. We've spoken about sustainability many times in this council. What is sustainable about disposing of social housing assets without first fully investigating every option to retain or replace them? The council has rightly spoken about supporting vulnerable residents. What better example of that commitment is there than ensuring we have appropriate accommodation for an ageing population? This council has rightly spoken about community. What stronger communities do we have than those where older residents can live independently while remaining connected and supported? This motion does not ask the council to commit millions of pounds. It doesn't ask us to start building tomorrow. It simply asks us to undertake the work necessary to establish whether redevelopment, partnership working and external funding can provide a viable alternative before irreversible decisions are implemented. That's a measured request and it's a reasonable request, and I believe it is a responsible request. Whatever political party we belong to, we are all temporary custodians of public assets. The decisions we make today will outlive every one of us sitting in this chamber. I would therefore ask colleagues to support this motion.
Thank you for that. nearly got to the end.
Thank you.
A seconder, please.
I will second this motion and reserve my right to speak, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Right, if any councillors would like to speak, please indicate using your console.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's disappointing that this motion has been brought so very late in the process, especially as the issue has been fully considered by both the Housing Management Advisory Board and Scrutiny Commission, and both are supportive of the decision. The matter has been fully explored. Detailed modelling was undertaken by ARC, who are a specialist social housing consultancy. The modelling was very clear that new high-quality sheltered schemes are not viable. Sufficient funding is not available now and it will not be in the foreseeable future. Grant funding cannot bridge the funding gap. Homes England have been consulted and they have confirmed that no funding is possible for such schemes. Like the council, housing associations with development expertise could not propose a viable solution at Fielding Court. This proposed resolution would result in more cost without there being a likely positive outcome. This significant and unnecessary cost on top of the robust reports already produced would put even more strain on the financial pressure on the HRA. The few remaining tenants in these schemes have accepted that they will be moving. They are being well supported and adequately compensated. To change the decision now would pull the rug from under their feet, leaving them confused and uncertain for their future. This hasn't been an easy decision for anyone, but it is the right decision. The tenants will move to homes they and we can be proud of, and receipts from the sales will be used to bolster the housing revenue account for the benefit of all our tenants. Let's not forget we still have over 700 sheltered properties and they are currently not fully occupied. I urge you all to reject the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Tillotson. Councillor Claire Forrest.
In 2013. That's 13 years ago. Oh, what did I do? Close. Shall I just shout? Well, opportunities. I am very frustrated. I remind everyone that the initial report regarding this matter of sheltered accommodation came out in 2013. That's 13 years ago. The Tory council in power at that time made no decisions to mitigate this matter. No policies, no plans, no discussion, no action, no money allocated. Nothing. And now this matter is not just important, but urgent. The opposition has had plenty of time to ask questions and raise queries. In the proper place, scrutiny, the Conservatives did not dissent from the decision made. Their voices were heard and they voted in favour. And yet we are listening to, well, mere meant, but I'm sorry, nonsense. If this matter was of such importance, why have our opposition done nothing during their time in power? Why have they not engaged straightforwardly in the scrutiny process? Why have they not used the proper process of the council? Why wait till now? Why wait until now in this meeting to have this discussion? This action suggests that this matter hasn't been taken seriously by the opposition. We have to take difficult decisions, sometimes decisions which are uncomfortable, but we must prioritise our sheltered accommodation and the standard of that provision for our residents. And doing this now is just petty point scoring. Thank you.
Thanks for that. I've had names appearing and disappearing in my console, so the only name I've got right now is Councillor Corey Losley. So I apologise if you've pressed it and disappeared. Councillor Corey Losley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item came to scrutiny last month, where my fellow scrutiny commissioners and I discussed it at length. Got on very well with my Conservative colleagues on the Scrutiny Commission, and we do some great work together. But if the Conservative group really felt strongly about this proposal, why did none of its representatives on the Scrutiny Commission raise an objection? This would have been a prime opportunity to take action before a final decision was made. I do recall some of my colleagues, Conservative colleagues, saying how sad this was. And I remember thinking to myself, yes, this is very sad. It is sad that this valuable social and community asset has been left for a decade to rot and decay and to neglect. It is sad that the people who've made their homes there now have to move. And the saddest thing is that this could have been prevented by the Conservatives when they were in charge. Now they're not, and we've been left to pick up the pieces and make the best out of a bad situation. This is all very troubling, but what I find most troubling is that rather than doing anything when they either had control for many years or at scrutiny where they can still influence policy now, they waited. They waited to use this issue as a rod to beat an administration whose most proud achievement is the regeneration of neglected social housing. This motion is not about current or future tenants, it's about politics. But it is those tenants whom my thoughts are with, people in Babington Court, or Sorrel Court, or Martin Court in Anstey, some of whom would have voted for Conservative councillors, and must now be asking, why didn't you do anything to help us when you had the chance?
Thank you. Councillor Roberts, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got 3 points. Sheltered housing is incredibly important, but if left neglected, it cannot be allowed to be neglected for 13 years, because the original report came out in 2013. We're now in 2026. The sheltered housing we do have is 99% empty, which means that it is not up to standard. Most residents do not want a bedroom that has shared bathroom facilities and a shared kitchen. They would like an all-in-one. Residents have voted for these changes themselves at the Residents' Advisory Board. That is the most important factor. We do not want to be making any changes to this motion or the plan going forward. I'm concerned that the people across the hall and the chamber waited till this decision was made to complain, because I do not want to see residents who've been adequately compensated, have had the information given to them, have even voted for the changes themselves, to be unsettled by yet more delays, more changes to ongoing plans. That is why I'm not in favour of this motion. Thank you. I just think
Councillor Seaton.
Right, I'm going to stand. I'm used to standing and speaking. It's good for the diaphragm, apparently. I'm not standing up really here as a Conservative. I'm not standing up and denying the fact that the residents in the social housing, the residential housing that we had, do not appreciate or want to stay in that housing because it's not up to standard. I'm standing up now because I'm a Thurmaston councillor, and the COVID year, unfortunately 2 weeks before it was announced, we had a huge meeting at Charnwood at our social housing, and it's just popped out of my mind now. Where's Mark Lowe when you want him? Court, St Michael's Court, that's it, yeah, I've got Charnwood on my mind then. St Michael's Court, and the residents there were told that they'd be able to move out, compensated for that, and then being able to move in when it was a new building. But COVID happened. It changes views of the council, it changes aspirations, and obviously it changes finances as well. And what we have got instead, and it is opening on Wednesday, 9 bungalows to replace 34 flats. Now, those 34 flats had to share 2 toilets on the floor of each floor that it was on, 3 floors. And I'm not surprised that people didn't want to stay there, but there was quite a lot that was there. And the argument was that people don't want to live in residential housing. That was the wrong argument. The argument should have been people don't want to stay in that type of social housing. Anyway, I argued, long story short, I argued until I was blue in the face, red in the face even. But I've got my 9 bungalows and they will be beautiful, but I've been inundated, and I'm not one for exaggerating, with calls saying, can we move in? Can we move in? We're getting old, we live in Thurmaston, all of our contacts live in Thurmaston, we want to stay in Thurmaston. And we want one of the 9 bungalows. And of course, it's out of my hands anyway, because it's on a bidding system. But part of the argument also about me not being able to keep the residential property was...
Thank you, Councillor Seaton.
Sorry?
Time's up.
Is it time's up?
Afraid so.
There you go, you see I'm battling on. So thank you very much. So I won't be supporting whatever I'm supposed to be not supporting because of St Michael's Court.
Councillor Charles.
Yeah,
good. Okay. Yeah, just a couple of points from me, really, having sat on that scrutiny committee. I've been poring over the report from that actual meeting today, just to check whether the information is correct. And it does appear to me that some of the information is not fully in this report, which particularly, as Councillor Tillotson's alluded to, the Homes England advice, I can't find it in here. However, there are a list of strategic risks to actually looking a bit further into this, which are in there. So again, scrutiny did scrutinise this report, and we did come up with our recommendations. I think, for me, again, the key to this motion really is that we do have an option to delay this and to review that, just to make sure we haven't missed anything. There is a line in this report that perhaps rings true from ARC, and it is that when the land is gone, it is gone forever. And I'm just wondering whether we have to take that step now, or whether we can delay, review, and then make a final decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Good?
I'd just also like to echo what Councillor Tillotson and Councillor Roberts said, that when this did come up as an item on the agenda of the Housing Management Advisory Board, the residents of the sheltered housing block themselves did actually vote in favour of disposal of these properties. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Tidija?
Thank you, Matt. As Customer Experience Lead, Cabinet Lead, I suggest this motion has nothing to do with the residents or the customers who live in that sheltered accommodation. Our officers, scrutiny, Cabinet, and particularly the Cabinet Lead for Housing has looked at all eventualities, I know, because we had long discussions at Cabinet. Let me be clear, no one wants such a decision, no one wants to make it. This administration has been brave and taken some very difficult decisions because they are the right thing to do. Lead Member for Housing, as I said, has gone to the premises, spoken to residents, and has reported back that this is what they would want to do, or it is the right decision in the round. Not making this decision is not the right thing to do. And for that reason, I don't support this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Needham?
You turned it off. Right now. Yeah. Thank you very much. Right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with a lot of what Councillor Monk said, what a lot of other councillors have said. The closure of these schemes is really, really sad and really difficult, and it's the loss of community that we can't replace. And Council might recall or have seen that I've raised this myself formally, informally, have tried to find loads of different outcomes. But I do understand now that the Council has exhausted the options and the decision is one of last resort. I also would have wanted better marketing and investment in the remaining schemes, but the time for that very clearly was when that would have been effective. That was many years ago, and as other councillors alluded to, that was actually when the Conservative group was in charge and could have actually done something effective here. We are where we now are, but all of the things the motion's asking for have already been done. So I can only think there are two possible reasons why this is in front of us tonight. So either you aren't fully across what's going on, which is awkward, or you're doing it as a political stunt, in which case I feel that that's really cruel. And actually, I don't ever get cross about motions, but this one has made me really quite cross. These residents have absolutely been through it, and I don't want to see them put through it another round of uncertainty, and nor do they want it. And I think the cruelest thing we can do now is give people false hope based on something that we know is almost certainly impossible. As other members have pointed out, all of this has been through at least 3 rounds of scrutiny, more than once, I believe, which is why I'm absolutely baffled why the Conservative group would choose to put this motion forward and why they'd do it now. I've got to stress again, like the decision was made on this weeks ago, and an intervention like this would have been, you know, it should have happened months, if not years ago, not now. You know, since the decision's taken, staff have been employed to help tenants move, compensation's been paid, new tenancy offers have been made. I think some people are literally in the process of moving. So I don't understand why you're proposing this. Shall we say, oh, let's pause this now again while we look into all the things we've already looked at, when we absolutely know the answer isn't going to be different, and it's going to leave those people in even further limbo and all the stress that they've been caused. And I think this is purely a political stunt. I think it's cruel, and I don't want any part of it. And just to go back again to that slightly awkward political point that this has been through so many rounds of scrutiny, where a lot of Conservative members have given really thoughtful, good interventions. And this motion, I think, has just completely undermined your colleagues on scrutiny, and not least your former cabinet leads. It's asking them to vote against their own work.
Thank you, Councillor Needham. Right. I've been reminded that your council will kind of glow red if your speaker's on, so you don't need to press the button again. So, Councillor Beverley Gray.
I'd like to assure Councillor Monk that as a cabinet, we wrestled with exactly the kind of questions that she's raised. This is an incredibly difficult decision for any administration to have to make, but it is the right one. That investment could have been done, as colleagues have pointed out, years ago. Now, the cost of making that investment is simply not viable. Housing associations cannot meet the costs. Any grants, we've been advised by Homes England, would not meet the shortfall. And what this motion risks doing, once again, is nothing, which is just not acceptable. And I would echo Councillor Needham. Tenants have been through enough. They do not need any more stress and uncertainty. So I would urge colleagues not to support this motion.
Thank you. So, Councillor Blackshaw.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was at the Scrutiny Committee when this was discussed, and what I heard from all the councillors there was clear. This is difficult, but it is necessary. So I was surprised to later read claims of serious opposition. The mood at scrutiny was one of genuine concern for residents and recognition that leaving things as they are is not defensible. I know what good ageing in place should look like, and it is not this. And even a cursory look at units such as Sorrel Court shows that they are no longer fit for purpose. The facts are stark. The toilets are not wide enough for frames to assist getting up and down, and should someone collapse in there, there's not space for a medic to safely lift them up or move them out. The kitchen is extremely limited in size, doesn't have space for a proper oven, perching stool or walking frame to safely move around. While larger flights of stairs have a stair lift, there are many steps and level changes, all of which are a trip hazard. This accommodation may have been acceptable 50 years ago when it was built, but it is not acceptable now. Our residents deserve homes that support dignity, autonomy, and independence, not buildings designed around very old ideas of geriatric decline and supervision. If we do nothing, the position only gets worse. As residents leave, and they will leave, those who remain will become more isolated, more vulnerable, and more alone. These are some of our most vulnerable and, dare I say, venerable residents that we house. We owe them more than warm words and delay. The first report came in showing that this accommodation was neither suitable nor sustainable over 10 years ago. The best time to have acted was then. The second best time to act is now. If we duck this again, residents will pay the price. And that is not compassion, it is failure.
Thank you. Councillor Baines.
Scrutiny looked at what it looked at, but in our view, it wasn't given the full information that it needed to properly scrutinise this very, very important issue. And the idea that it's that it's in the best interest of the residents to decant them in the situation and take them out of accommodation that they've been in for many, many years, without properly investigating the options, seems to me to be dishonest and unfair, not the other way around. So we're bringing this motion tonight because we think that it's this administration, Labour Green administration, that's decided to put these accommodations up for disposal, not a Conservative administration. You can say what you like about what we've done in the past, but we weren't trying to close them down. So I think it's worth thinking about that. So the idea is rather fanciful. It's interesting that Labour's manifesto is to fix the housing crisis. What, by closing down sheltered accommodation? Okay, nice one. So I think really what we're hearing is a little bit tone deaf from Labour, especially from Councillor Corey Losley, who said what he said about what anti-residents might think. So our motion doesn't say leave things as they are. If you read it properly, you would know that it doesn't say that. It suggests that we undertake a proper investigation to see whether there are any other alternatives, because this is deeply distressing for many of our residents. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Fox.
Like you've come well armed tonight, and I was interested to see how this was going to be justified. As an opening gambit, the other side began by having a go at the lateness of the motion and its timing, and Councillor Needham, you've sort of jumped in on that as well. And I was surprised, because I think if I had been making a decision this important about people, I'd start with why it was right and cover its timing. The timing of this is not the deciding factor. The main theme, as it comes across to me, is that the other side is flailing around, blaming everybody else. And there seems to me a lack of ownership. You've blamed scrutiny. You've had a real go at scrutiny. You've brought in the Housing Management Advisory Board. You've pulled in some Tory councillors from 13 years ago. That's not relevant. What worries me is when I'm at a point of weakness, there's always that temptation to flail around and criticise everyone else. Because fundamentally, I'm a bit insecure and I'm quite uncomfortable with the decision. And it's easier to sort of throw the muck at other people who aren't in charge at that point. A few of you got there, actually. But for the first side of the debate, I didn't really hear anything from the other side about this being the morally right decision. I had a lot of throwing their hands up in the air, as if this was happening to you and you couldn't possibly do everything else. The Green Party, I do understand that I'm more empathetic to your position. The Labour Party, you're in national government. We frequently hear references to your links to national government. So if you can't do the right thing because it's the moral thing, nobody can, because the power's with you in both respects at the moment. I'm getting really bored in this chamber of financial arguments. Money is not really that big a factor. Well, it is a bigger factor, sorry, but it's not. We're not a council on the brink of bankruptcy. It's not a sign of good government to have a massive bank balance at the end that hasn't been spent on people. And what I would say is I totally agree that difficult decisions do have to be made, but they don't have to be made at every single council as if there's nothing you can do about it. Sometimes you can do something earlier rather than Tory councillors 13 years ago. You've been in administration how long now? So please don't throw your own hands up in the air. The only people for a long time the only person I heard talk about people until later was Councillor Monk. It was financial arguments, it was blaming everybody else. To be fair, some of you have started to talk about people again at the end. You haven't convinced me that this is the morally right decision. You've convinced me that it's late and you're too weak to do anything about it at this point. You've convinced me that you believe it's everyone else's fault and not your own. And you've convinced me that you're taking no ownership and showing that respect to those people. So I will not be voting against this because you have not convinced me it's the morally right decision. We need to think about people continually as individuals, not statistics, and that should be our guiding principle. I'm not convinced that that has been the case here from your reaction, your overreaction to our motion that has focused on our mistakes, scrutiny, Tory councillors 13 years ago. How many of you have spent the higher percentage of your speeches talking about the people you are displacing?
Councillor Anne Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, we do seem to be agreed on one thing, and that is that these properties are not fit for purpose. Even if we ignore any deterioration of the buildings, we know that shared bathrooms are not acceptable and are a hygiene risk. We know that people, if they fall over in their kitchens, can't be safely lifted. Therefore, something does have to be done. We have tried to dispose of one of the buildings and get a company to replace it with good, accessible, modern facilities for elderly people. That was not possible. So we are getting towards the end of the road now. Even if we could get enough money to renovate these blocks, and that doesn't look as though we can at the moment, and the HRA budget is now very, very low because we have spent a lot of money investing in the properties that we do have. And that's not going, so that isn't going to work. So now is not the time to kick this can down the road again. Now is the time to try and raise as much money as we can to go back to the HRA budget and funds. And in that way, we can invest in the homes that we have, take actions that we can take for the benefit of all our residents, including those who are elderly and need sheltered accommodation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Infield.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, I'm a little concerned that the existence of this motion suggests that officers and those involved have not been as thorough as they should have been. Now, I've been a member of HMAP for over 3 years now, and I've seen this issue discussed and debated. I've seen reports presented, plans and ideas debated. And in this process, I found the officers to be highly professional and very committed to the tenants, as is the whole of that committee. So the tenants are uppermost in our mind. So initially, there were some detailed plans drawn up that involved different modifications, and these were looked on positively at the time. Later, we had a long-term financial assessment of HMAP, and as you know, HMAP can't be subsidised by the main council. HMAP has to stand on its own, the housing revenue account. And it was absolutely clear that HRA was heading towards bankruptcy, irrespective, and that we had to do absolutely all that we could to save the operation in the interests of the tenants in the end, of course. And it increasingly seems that we weren't going to be able to undertake any renovation work or changes. Initially, the suggestion was that the sites could be disposed of to social housing providers that weren't the council because they had more financial flexibility. They could raise money in the way that HRA with its massive debts could not. Now, as we've heard, they looked at the financial viability of these assets and found that they couldn't make it work. Now, in the end, of course, this reflects the financial constraints with which the council and HRA have to act, government set constraints, which are massively too tight. I mean, we all know that. HRAs, it's not just here that we're teetering on bankruptcy, it's across the country. So there's a functional failure. And the only solution was the one that they've come up with. It's regrettable. I agreed with a lot that Councillor Monk said about what we could and should do, but we can only do that within the constraints, and the constraints don't allow it. And over the years on HMAP, I've been persuaded this is what we've got to do. The decision's been made, and I am a little puzzled as to why it's come to council at this stage. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you. I think this issue's been well discussed, so what I'm going to do is going to close the queue now. So can I go to Councillor Ashcroft? And the queue's now closed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'd like to address the comment, Councillor Fox, I think it was, said that we'd shown a lack of ownership. Whereas obviously in 2013, when this issue first came up, that is exactly what the Conservative administration did. That's why they kicked the can down the road. We, by looking into this problem, looking into it deeply, having an independent survey, and then acting on it, has shown ownership. This is why you're attacking us now, because we've got a solution, we've put it forward, and now you're questioning it. But you're questioning it after the fact. So Councillor Bain said there's lots of information he didn't have, but we've had weeks and weeks of reports, months, where you could have asked questions, any information you wanted. Why didn't you have any of these ideas until after the fact? Why didn't you ask any of this information while this was an ongoing process? And the main thing I've got against this motion is, make no mistake, this is just kicking the can down the road yet again. Because there's nothing in this motion that, one, provides a solution, or two, even provides a path to a solution. What it will do is waste time and resources where the poor residents stay in limbo in substandard accommodation. And honestly, I think it's really shocking, and I really won't support this motion, and I suggest nobody else does either.
Great, thank you. I believe, Councillor Taylor, you reserved your right to speak.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I think I found the groups opposite very dismissive, not listening and totally missing the point, and they certainly haven't read or understood the motion. I think the residents will not appreciate some of the administration's comments. I found them very uncaring. This is about future residents who may need sheltered housing, not about the residents currently in these homes. They will make their own minds up about what they want to do and where they want to live. Many have already moved or are considering moving, so that is not your decision to make. We are not being asked tonight to reject change nor to ignore the challenges within these schemes. We're being asked to pause, briefly but deliberately, to ensure that the course we take is the right one, and that is a very reasonable ask. The permanent disposal of 5 sheltered housing schemes is not a routine decision. It is permanent, is irreversible. Once those sites leave public ownership, the opportunity to use them for supported housing is gone for good. That alone should pause us. We are aware of the pressures, the financial pressures within the housing revenue account, and that's down to your mismanagement of the HRA. You're trying to cover your mistakes. But financial pressure does not remove our responsibility to fully explore every viable option, especially when national funding streams exist, specifically to support this kind of provision. The Social and Affordable Housing Programme is real funding designed precisely to support the kind of redevelopment we are discussing. We haven't had this funding before. Yet, as outlined in the motion, no fully developed bid has been made, no detailed feasibility assessment based on confirmed grant assumptions have been completed. This shouldn't be put in the too hard box just because it is. We should accept the challenge and work through it together. So the question we must ask ourselves is simple. Can we generally say we've exhausted every option if we've not fully tested the major funding route available to us? I would suggest we cannot. There is also a lack of understanding between the difference between outdated stock and lack of demand. But this does not mean there's no demand for good quality, accessible, safe accommodation for older people. In fact, all the evidence points in the opposite direction. Our population is ageing, demand is increasing, and public policy nationally and locally is clear. Support people early, keep them independent, help them remain in their accommodation. Sheltered housing, when done well, delivers exactly that. Put simply, it's not just a housing issue, it's a prevention strategy, and prevention is always better than cure. This motion does not commit the council to spending money it does not have. It does not commit us to redevelopment at any cost. It does commit us to making a fully informed decision, not a rushed one. And crucially, it also identifies that these are not just housing units, they are communities. As councillors, we are custodians of public assets and public trust. That means taking decisions not just for today's balance sheet, as I'm hearing from across the chamber there, but tomorrow's residents. Pausing to get this right is not weakness, it's good governance, and I urge everyone to support this.
Thank you. Right, I call on Councillor Monk to sum up.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I don't really have much more to say. I feel like I've been talking to a brick wall, to be quite honest. It's not a last-minute political attempt. Anyone who knows me will know I'm really passionate about social housing. I grew up in social housing. My background is housing, 20 years property, Housing Management Advisory Board, Councillor Goode, Councillor Infield, you'll both know that I vehemently oppose this through that. So scrutinised through there. I also, Councillor Tillotson, I did write, I think I copied you in about a year ago when the Homes England's funding came through and asked whether the sheltered accommodation review would be looked into again in light of that further funding, which it did, and it came back. So it's not a last minute political point scoring attempt. All I will say, are we absolutely certain that we will not regret this decision of selling council owned land where we could have built and developed properties of our own? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Monk. So I'm now going to put the motion to the vote. So could you please use your console to vote? Oh, we've got a problem.
You got a problem with the console? The red is against, yeah.
Yeah, the red is against the motion. So you're... Right.
Right, should we do it by show of hands, Mr Mayor, just to be clear, 'cause it's an important vote. So
Yes.
do it by show of hands to make sure everyone's confident. So if you could ask those that are in favour to support the motion.
Okay, we're going to do show of hands. So those in favour?
Yeah, that's everyone in favour of the motion. Okay. Okay, those against.
Right. Can I have a vote for those against?
Any abstentions, just to be clear?
Right.
Any
And
abstentions?
are there any abstentions? I'm seeing no abstentions.
So
Okay.
that motion is lost then, Mr Mayor.
Right, okay. The motion is lost. Right, moving on to item 6.1, community governance reviews. So that's on page 9 of your papers. So I call on Councillor Mia to propose the item.
I'll try it. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Mr Mayor, as council is required to consider the outcome of the stage 2 consultation and approve final recommendations and resulting reorganisation orders, I move the recommendations on page 9 of the agenda. The report and recommendations before council is the culmination of a community governance review to create a parish council for the areas of the town of Loughborough and the new garden village of Broadnock. 2 consultations were carried out over the course of this governance review, and on both occasions there was overwhelming support for the creation of the new parishes. Of those 87 responses, there were 77 responses in favour of emparishing the whole of the currently unparished area of Loughborough. There were significant numbers of comments made supporting emparishment, and these are summarised in the consultation analysis in Appendix 1. Common themes among supporters include a strong desire for local representation, local voice, local decision making, and a belief that a town council will preserve local services in Loughborough. The creation of a new parish was supported by the Police and Crime Commissioner and by the Loughborough Area Committee. The draft reorganisation order for Loughborough sets an initial preset of £10 per year on a Band D charged property. This initial preset will go towards establishing a town office and employing a town clerk. In future years, it is expected that this charge will be absorbed within the Loughborough special rates as it becomes the town's preset. Similar levels of support have also been forthcoming for the creation of Broadnock Parish. Once completed, the Broadnock Village development is expected to number around 1,950 dwellings, and that the total electorate would eventually be around 5,021. The majority of the development will straddle the boundaries between Rothley, Wanlip and Thurkeston and Cropston parishes. While the development envelope includes some land just to the south of the A46 and A6 junction in Birstall Parish, Broadnock Village will clearly have its own identity, separate from that of the surrounding parishes. We are proposing a preset of £30 per year on a Band D charge property for that parish. There is a lot more detail in the report, and I am happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mia. Do we have a second?
I second this, Mr Mayor, and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. So if any councillors would like to speak, please indicate using your console. Councillor Roberts.
There we go. Oh, thank you. I just want to make something really, really clear, and it's also a question. The current Loughborough Parish / Town Council does not include Stonebow Parish / Garringdon Park.
Thank you for that clarification. Is there any other councillor who would like to speak? Councillor Snart.
Mr Mayor, thank you. I'm interested in the risks associated with these two areas, Loughborough and Broadnock, under the Community Governance Review. As a supporter of parish and town councils, I support the forming of town and parish councils to provide local services within the community they serve. The following would help me understand the initial impact on proposals for these two areas of the borough. Firstly, Loughborough. What are the intentions of the administration for the assets currently owned by Charnwood Borough Council, such as the Town Hall, Queen's Park? These venues are well run, very successful, and are used for residents across the borough and beyond. If these assets are possibly others are transferred to the proposed Town Council, what are the risks involved to the level of service and the impact when setting the precept and consequently the levels of council tax to Loughborough residents? Broadnock. I note it is expected to contain 1,950 dwellings. Initially, the electorate will be low when the proposed parish council is formed. Have any details been produced having low numbers affecting the initial levels of council tax, providing the necessary services and the risks associated with not achieving the expected electorate levels? I also note that the input to the consultation was low. I believe 23 respondents, not all from Broadnock, and difficult to, in my view, make decisions on such a low number. Is there a risk of not achieving the number of members to form a parish council with this low amount of information? Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Snart. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've probably raised the same question every time. It's about specifically the Loughborough one, I suppose, about whether we're creating another tier of local government when the national government is trying to get rid of tiers of local government. And I just don't know if we've gone too early, and I still don't have a confirmed answer that a new town or parish council for Loughborough will be able to raise a precept under the regulations or not. So I still have concerns about this. I understand why you're doing it, why it's coming forward now, but I think there's some scepticism about whether new parish councils created because of local government reorganisation will be allowed to raise a precept, and I still don't have a clear answer, and I haven't seen any government guidance either. So I just want to raise the point again. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Rattray.
Thank you. Can you hear me? My comments are just in relation to Broadnock. Obviously, that's nearest to my ward of Birstall. This is going to be a very large development and is, although bordering Rothley, Birstall, Thurcaston, the size of it is going to make it quite a unique development and a unique area. With that being said, those local residents should have the opportunity to shape their own future. So I feel like they should have their own decision making. Having the parish council will allow them to do that, so I'm in support of it.
Thank you, Councillor Rattray. I see no other councillors on the list, so Councillor Gray, you reserved your right to speak.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you for all those councillors who've contributed. I think some of the information that Councillor Snart asked for is not actually available yet in terms of which assets will transfer over. In terms of the comment about Loughborough that Councillor Taylor raised, I know that there were some respondents who were concerned about adding an extra tier of bureaucracy, but overwhelmingly I think the respondents actually said that they were in favour of a town council to get that representation and local accountability. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gray. So I call on Councillor Mear to sum up.
Cheers. Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Snart, let's start with yourself. Broadnock, yeah, it's very important. I agree with Councillor Rattray there that they should have representation. It's going to be a huge development. It's going to take a long time to build it out. Yeah, it's nearly 2,000 houses. But I think if you go to the development now, it's already a couple of hundred houses up, if not more. So it's already large and larger than some of the villages that we have that are parished. Yeah, definitely, I think they want representation there. The assets, Councillor Gray did point out no decisions have been made as to what assets will transfer over to the town council. I think that's a future negotiation there to be had between the administration and parish councillors in the future, and maybe a shadow unitary authority as well. As to precepts, I think we're creating the precept now, and local government reorganisation hasn't happened, so we're creating the parish before local government reorganisation has happened, and we're not the only area looking at this. I believe Market Harbour have just done their first consultation and have agreed it, and they're going towards their second one as well. I think Colville are thinking, and Melton are thinking as well, of doing similar as well. I don't know how far they are each down their lines, but it's not a unique occurrence. But it's important that people in Loughborough, a town of 60, 70,000 inhabitants, has its own representation if and when the Borough Council should dissolve and an upper unitary takes over. I think Stonebow, good question. Stonebow is its own parish, and Loughborough will be its own parish. So at a future date, we might make a decision there, but that's not on the table at this moment in time. They will still remain separate parishes at that time. We've set the Broadnock precept this time as well, because it puts some money in the bank for the parish council, so they can employ probably a part-time clerk as well, and get that off the ground, because you're right, Councillor Rattray, it is important for local areas to have their own representation, and this gives them a very good start, and ahead of Stonebow, which don't have their precept yet. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mear. So, right, we're ready to put the motion to the vote. Now, what we'll try the consoles one more time, and if you have any problem, can you raise your hands, then we'll stop that and do it by a show of hands. So we'll try the consoles first and see if it's working. Nope, still problems. Okay, so we shall now do it by a show of hands. Right, can I ask everyone in favour of the motion to raise your hands?
Looks like it's unanimous, Mr. Mayor.
Is that unanimous?
Yeah, every hand's up. Mr.
Yeah,
Mayor.
I think that's unanimous, so we'll just call it that. Okay, thank you for that. Right, moving on to item 6.2, which is the polling district review. That's on page 59 of your papers. So I call on Councillor Jadeja to propose the item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To ensure that any amended arrangements for polling districts, polling places and polling stations are in place for the next election on the 6th of May 2027, I move that a review of polling districts, polling places and polling stations within the borough be undertaken to commence on the 16th of June 2026, with final proposals being reported for approval at the November 2026 Council meeting. The Council is required to carry out a full statutory review of polling stations every 5 years. The last review happened in 2023. Although there is no requirement for a review to be carried out currently, and for polling districts and polling places between these full reviews, it is good practice for polling places to be kept under consideration between compulsory reviews. So it's good practice, which is what we would like to promote. Thank you.
Thank you. Do a seconder?
I second this, Mr. Mayor, and reserve my rights.
Right. If any councillors would like to speak, please indicate using your console. I'm seeing no names. Okay, I'll move. Councillor Worrell, you reserved your right to speak.
I have nothing further to add, Mr. Mayor, apart from saying that I welcome this polling district review. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I call on Councillor Jadija to sum up.
I have nothing further to add. Thank you. I move the original motion.
Thank you for that. Right, I'm now going to put the motion to the vote, and we'll just do it by a show of hands. So all those in favour? Yes, I think we're unanimous once more. So that's passed unanimously. Now moving on to item 6.3, which is the budget environment, sheltered accommodation, cabinet decisions, and that's on page 114 of your papers. So I call on Councillor Ashcroft to propose the item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To provide the necessary financial capacity to implement the decisions using existing financial resources, I move that a budget environment of £704,328 split evenly from capital budgets Z767 heating and Z769 roofing be made to implement the decisions of Cabinet detailed below, and that these budgets be replenished using receipts generated from the sales.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Tillotson, I believe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I second this and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. So I now say if any councillors would like to speak, can you please indicate using your console? Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, I'm going to be supporting this. This affects some residents of mine in Martin Court in Anstey, and I did email Councillor Tillotson several times quite a while ago when this was under her portfolio about that the decision had been made and these payments should have been made a long time ago. A lot of my residents have moved out already, incurred costs for that moving and had to buy new carpet, curtains and decorations. Well, I must admit the responses I got from Councillor Tillotson were very dismissive, very rude, and kind of talked to me like I was a small child and didn't have a clue what was going on, which I didn't find very helpful at all. So this should have been sorted out a long time ago after the decision was made to disperse with this accommodation. So I am definitely supporting my residents, and I hope those payments have already gone into my residents' bank accounts. So I will be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. So Councillor Needham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to take this opportunity to say that I'm glad to see that this budget's being made for these residents who are undergoing, significant turmoil in their life. It is right that they're properly compensated, and I was pleased to see that there's some allocation there for a staff member to support them, which I know firsthand from talking to residents at Peters Court has been very welcomed by them. And from day one of this, my main concern has been how those residents have been supported. So I just wanted to put on record that I'm really glad to see that the budget's being used for that, and also to help them, as Councillor Deborah Taylor has just said, residents incur upfront costs when they move, and I'm glad to see that there is some provision in there. So just to say we are supportive of this, and I am glad that residents are being helped with the budget. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Needham. So I'm seeing no more councillors in the list here, so Councillor Tillotson, you reserved your right to speak.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I'd just like to respond to Councillor Taylor. I mean, we made it clear that we couldn't make payments to residents who'd moved out until the final decision was made. Once the final decision was made, retrospective payments are being made. And that is important to acknowledge, but otherwise I don't have any other comments.
Thank you, Councillor Tillotson. So I now call on Councillor Ashcroft to sum up.
Okay, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm glad to hear from the opposition and also for the Greens that they're supporting this. We've talked a lot previously about the sale of the sheltered accommodation, but it is important that we do put in enough funds to enable this to go through smoothly and to support the residents of those blocks, and you can see here what we are. The other thing to note is that the aim is to restore so it's just environment, but the funds where this money is coming from will be restored on sale of properties. Therefore, I propose that the motion should be supported to carry out the democratic will of this council in order to go ahead with these sales while supporting our residents.
Thank you, Councillor Ashcroft. So I'm now going to put the motion to the vote, and again we'll go old school and by show of hands. So can I see those in favour of this motion?
Mr Mayor, that's unanimous again.
Okay, I believe that's unanimous. So that's passed unanimously. Right, moving on to item 6.4, which is the Audit Committee Annual Report 2026, and that is on page 135 of your papers. So I call on Councillor Popley to propose the item.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. To satisfy the SIPCA guidance on how local government bodies deliver effective audit committee arrangements, I move that the work of the Audit Committee in 2025 to 26 be noted.
Thank you. And to second?
I second this, Mr Mayor, and reserve my right.
Thank you. So if any councillors would like to speak, can you please indicate using your console? Councillor Mia.
Cheers. Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I just want to put on record my thanks to the Chair and the Vice Chair who's here out of the committee, of the Audit Committee, and the people that are on it, because it's the checks and balances that hold us to account. And the outturn now, we've been in power now for 3 years, so the outturns are ours and ours to own. So it's just one of those, so thank you very much, and that things haven't been fallen off, as you say. The wheels haven't fallen off, but thank you very much, and it was good to look at some of the reports that you're looking at, and the internal and the external audits as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I see no other speakers, so Councillor Ashcroft, I believe you reserved your right to speak.
Yeah, I just want to add my thanks to Councillor Mears, to all on the committee, that these documents, when I look through them, they're pretty complex, detailed documents, and I think they take quite a lot of work to go through. So again, just that the people on the committee, we appreciate your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. So I call on Councillor Popley to sum up.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just very quickly, I want to respond to the leader, Councillor Ashcroft. Thank you for your kind comments. I'm sure everyone who is presently on the committee values that, and also to Jane, our chairman, who does a wonderful job keeping us in check, and Simon. We try and keep meetings as short as we possibly can. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Popley. So I'm now going to put the motion to the vote. So again, by a show of hands, can I see those in favour of the motion? Right, so that looks like another unanimous vote, so that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 6.5, which is the annual scrutiny report 2025-26, and that is in your agenda supplement. So I now call on Councillor Charles to propose the item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To report annually to Council on the workings of scrutiny bodies and the operation of the scrutiny function generally in accordance with Scrutiny Committee Procedure 6.3E of the Council's Constitution, I move that the work of scrutiny during 2025-26 as set out in the Annual Scrutiny Report 25-26 attached as an annex to this report be noted.
And the seconder?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to second this motion. I reserve my right to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Needham. So if any councillors would like to speak, again, could you please indicate using your console?
Hi, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to thank everybody involved in the scrutiny process as the chair of the Finance and Performance Scrutiny Committee. The role of scrutiny in local government is just so very important. So thank you very much for everybody who's had a role in that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Maynard. Now, Councillor Mia.
Cheers. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much to our scrutiny commissioners. They've done some very, very big topics in the previous year or in the last year, all of which are put there. And I think your workload isn't going to get any smaller going forward with local government reorganisation on the horizon in July up close and in 3 or 4 weeks. So next time you meet, there'll be big topics. But I just want to put on record thanks to the Housing Scrutiny Panel as well and the HMO panel that's coming through as well, because they're important. It gets a wider reach of councillors that aren't on main scrutiny to work on those and feed in. And we only had Cabinet last week, and I think we took on board one of the Scrutiny Commission's recommendations and alterations in our Cabinet decision making. So that's how highly we value scrutiny. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. So, Councillor Needham, I believe you reserved your right to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to echo what other councillors have said. I just want to say thank you to the main scrutiny bodies and all the panels and the chairs and the members. Everybody works really hard on scrutiny and in my experience works really well together. There's often very difficult decisions to take, as we've talked about tonight, but in my experience, they are always taken thoughtfully and with our residents and providing a good service at the forefront of those decisions. And I also want to thank the officers that support us, because without them, we'd be quite lost. And also just wanted to say, again, the coming years are definitely going to be a challenge, and I'm looking forward to working with people on scrutiny in a constructive way over that period. So just to place, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Needham. So I now call on Councillor Charles to sum up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to echo everybody's comments. I'd also like to thank the officers for compiling this report and for using a photograph of me that's probably 8 years out of date. I certainly look a lot less grey here than I probably am now, but thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Charles. So I'm now going to put the motion to the vote, again with a show of hands. Can I see those in favour of the motion?
That appears again to be unanimous, Mr. Mayor.
Right. Once again, we have a unanimous vote in favour, so thank you for that. Moving on to item 6.6, the customer experience strategy. Again, that's in your agenda supplement. So I call on Councillor Jadeja to propose the item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr Mayor, to identify the priorities against which the Council will seek to maintain and enhance our customer experience, offering over the period 2026 to 2029, I move that the Customer Experience Strategy 26 to 29, as set out in the appendix to the report, to be approved. It's worth stating, before I mention the detail of this strategy, that we had a compliment for this from a scrutiny colleague who's not Labour or Green or Independent, so I was pleased to note that. This customer experience strategy sets out a clear and ambitious vision for how we will transform the way residents interact with the council over the period of time. At its heart is a simple but powerful commitment, putting customers first, our residents first, in every interaction, every service, and every decision we make. The strategy recognises that customer expectations are changing. People want services that are accessible, easy to use, and responsive, whether it's online, over the phone, or in person. In response, we will combine digital innovation with a strong commitment to inclusivity, ensuring no resident is left behind as we modernise. We will focus on getting things right first time, not always possible in a complex world, designing services, responding to customer journeys, using data and technology to improve our services. This includes investing in new services and systems, digital services, and supporting those who need extra help to access them. Importantly, this is not just a strategy for customer services, and the team has worked very hard to make this into a whole council approach. Delivering excellent customer experience will be everyone's responsibility, supported by a shared culture, clear standards, and a commitment to learning and improvement. You'll note in the papers that we also include an equality impact assessment. As lead member for equality, I'm pleased that that is thorough and detailed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tudela. Do you have a seconder?
I second this, Mr Mayor, and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. So if any councillors would like to speak, please indicate using your console. Councillor Blackshaw.
So just waiting for it to go red. And I think Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Anne. And it's back to you again. Oh. I'll keep talking. I'm a teacher. I can do it in a loud voice. I was really pleased, and I'd like to thank the council for putting on the special IT sessions that have been available for our residents. I know from having worked on the research that the research shows that your ability to adapt to new and changing technologies unfortunately diminishes significantly after the age of 50. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that just because we're used to using the technologies now, as we age, we're still going to need the support. So thank you to the council for providing that support, and I do hope it continues in future.
Thank you, Councillor Blackshaw. Councillor Rattray.
Thank you. As I was possibly mentioned in the introduction as the person who spoke positively about this in scrutiny, I just thought it was worth kind of mentioning that in a little more detail. I did speak up about this in scrutiny. I do feel this is the most customer-focused, customer experience strategy that we've had as a council. Customer service is something that I will constantly push for and strive for us to get right first time. It isn't something that happens first time all the time, but I think the aims that are in the document really kind of step us forward from where we have been. So I look forward to see us working towards achieving everything that's in the strategy, but by far is the best one that I've seen so far. So thank you for everyone that's worked on it.
Thank you, Councillor Rattray. Councillor Snart.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm sorry this was a bit late, so I haven't had time really to look at it all, but I do note on page 29, In addition, of the 647 responses received, 85% of residents reported that were either satisfied or very satisfied. I don't think that's actually the right statement. It should read quite satisfied. And I think that ought to be put right in terms of what we're looking at. Going on to page 26, which is the customer promise, 6 big statements made. And I've just focused on one, if I may, is getting things right first time. What this is really missing, and I do support this because it is excellent work, but are we missing something about training? It's all very well putting out a statement, getting things right first time, but to do that quality training in terms of getting that right first time, there is an enormous amount of work to do. And if you just put a statement down like that, it's just like a motherhood statement saying, yes, it's what we want to do, but what's the actual things behind it to make that happen? And I know this was in the manifesto or early on when the administration came forward, but I've never seen anything since then that says that we're doing quality training to get things right first time. So it is important because if you don't do it right first time, you've got to go back and you've actually got to take more time when you could be starting to look at other issues that you may have to find. So I think for me that there is something missing in terms of the how we'll succeed and measure, which is on page 35. And I think there is a little bit more work to do around how we actually deal with that. And just making statements doesn't actually do the right thing, in my view. You need to have something to back it up in terms of training and how we deliver it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Snarts. Councillor Boker?
Do I press this again? Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm also going to, Mr. Mayor, focus on page 26 of the report and the customer promise, but I'm homing in on a different statement, which is listening and understanding customer needs. The introduction by the lead member inferred that all of a sudden we have a customer service strategy, but we actually have had a customer service strategy and quality management process for about 14 years. And at the time, 14 years ago, we won numerous quality customer service awards. And I feel that since COVID, maybe some of this emphasis on understanding customer needs has gone slightly downhill. And planning comes to mind because we have a lot of residents' dissatisfaction with planning decisions or how they're made. And are we actually listening and understanding customer needs? Now, we have just debated a very serious issue for our elderly residents in Charnwood, which is the displacement of elderly and vulnerable residents from their homes in sheltered accommodation, not only now, but in the future, because they just will not exist. I feel that have we actually listened to our customers and their needs? And I would like to ask the lead member for customer services what processes were followed to listen and understand our customer needs before this important decision was made. And I have to say, I don't need an answer now. I can have a written response when you've looked at all the processes that were followed. And I have to say, I was distinctly disappointed with Councillor Needham's remarks about us trying to make a political
whatever benefit point, when actually our motion was entirely about our customers and our elderly residents.
Thank you, Councillor Booker. Councillor Mear?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I think before us is an excellent customer experience strategy and policy. I think Councillor Rattray is right for praising it, and well done, Councillor Jadeja, on your work as lead member for this, for getting it here. When you look at the charts in there, when you look at the amount of response, you know, it's 85% of our residents have been positive. You know, I know the sample is 647, but that's one of the biggest samples I've seen in this kind of thing. So it's just, you know, we can be negative about it. We can bring other topics into this strategy, but here we're just looking at the strategy and how we implement it going forward for our customers. I'm sure everything was followed for the other debate that we've just had, and maybe you should have taken the opportunity there, Councillor Booker, to have your say in that debate here. But this has been through scrutiny, and they've praised it. And today we just want to put it on record that this is the strategy going forward, and it is an excellent strategy, and I ask everybody to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Mear. Councillor Fox?
Oh, hello. Am I on? Am I on? Sorry. It's just a small question for me. I was just looking at page 34. I'm just interested in the role of technology, and I was looking through the strategy to find references to AI, which is clearly gaining huge momentum at the moment in all areas. So I was pleased to see reference to it. And this is not a criticism, it's just a question. If you could, and I'd happily accept a written response, but I'd be interested in the fleshing out of what the role AI is going to play. So we have We Will at the top, investigate the use of AI to help customers find services more quickly. I can see some distinction between explore the utilisation of new technology such as AI to deliver services, but they feel very general, but also to be quite overlapping. So what my question is, I can see in year one there's a movement to investigate the use of artificial intelligence, and year two for there to be targeted AI implementation aimed at repetitive tasks and information requests. One, I'd be interested to flesh that out and understand how we are best going to embrace that, but also it's an area gaining it's a rapidly growing area. So simultaneously, if we're looking at certain tasks that AI might take, what checks and balances have we got of the impact that might have on other sectors or people's jobs, etc. So I'd just be interested in a response that fleshes out really your vision for the role AI is going to play in this, because it's in there, but it's quite minimal at the moment, and I'd be interested to find out more. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fox. I'm seeing no one listing to speak, so I think I'll go to Councillor Gray, who reserved the right to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I wasn't going to say a lot, but just to mention a few things. First of all, about technology, we're not taking anything away by introducing new technology. We are trying to improve the customer experience by giving them a choice and handling their queries in an efficient way. I'm thinking especially now of customers calling in. I will be following the AI journey with interest, because I've yet to find an AI chat, for example, that does manage to answer my questions. I think the key here, councillors that have spoken are right. Training is going to be vital, and it is in the strategy. If you look on page 32, Principle 1, Customer First, provide training for all staff, and that training should be ongoing and in depth as well, so that our people answering queries and officers throughout the business can put themselves in the customer's shoes. And I was very pleased to hear that this is not set in stone. We will review constantly. We can look at the KPIs to see how we're doing. We can look at customer satisfaction and strive to be excellent, as it says in the strategy. And really just adapt this strategy as we need to. So what we have here is one thing, but it will develop, it will evolve. And I'm very pleased to see that we are taking customer experience seriously, because that is very dear to me and close to my heart. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Gray. So I call on Councillor Jadija to sum up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for everybody's comments. As a customer experience lead, I will certainly take them forward, because you are all customers too. I think I'm not going to go into some of the detail, because thank you, Councillor Gray has covered them. Just one point on the discussion about AI. It's clearly on the agenda for the team. We can certainly respond in writing, which we will do. But I think it's just trying to see how we can use it, and to make sure that everybody, where we do use technology, it's fit for purpose and it's appropriate. Thank you. I have nothing further to add. I put the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jadija. So I'm now going to put this motion to the vote, again by a show of hands. Can I see those in favour of the motion? Yep, that looks like unanimous. So the motion is passed. Moving on to item 6.7, which is the social media guidelines for members. That's on page 149 of your papers. I call on Councillor Mia to propose the item.
Mr. Mayor, following the motion on notice passed at Council on the 19th of January 2026, the current social media guidance for members has been externally reviewed by an industry expert who has developed a revised set of guidance based on best practice and advice issued by the Local Government Association, and I move the recommendations on page 149 of the agenda.
Thank you. Seconder for the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I second this motion and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Blackshaw. If any councillors would like to speak, please indicate using your console. Councillor Monk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'd like to thank the officers that have drafted this guidance. That's after the motion. There's definitely some improvements here. However, I mean, the guidance now acknowledges the role councillors played administering online forums and community groups, which was one of the main issues my motion sought to address. However, I have carefully considered the draft guidance with the motion, and I'm not yet convinced it fully delivers what we ask for. The motion was not about whether councillors should use social media responsibly. We've already had guidance covering that. We asked for guidance with reference to fairness, transparency, inclusivity and political neutrality. But much of this document explains what administrators can do rather than what standards they should apply when exercising those powers. Where does it say that residents should not be excluded because of their political views? Where does it set out the expectations that moderation should be fair, transparent and consistently applied? I'm also a little concerned that some sections are vague, subjective and potentially difficult to enforce. If this guidance is to form part of the framework governing members' conduct, it should be clear, proportionate and capable of consistent interpretation. So I've just one question really. Can you explain how the draft guidance delivers the specific requirements of the motion in relation to fairness, inclusivity and political neutrality when councillors administer community forums? And would you be willing to consider further refinement of the guidance before it's formally adopted? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Monks. Councillor Roberts. Oh.
Councillor Taylor's currently on the line.
There we go. Am I on? Yeah. Okay, good. Overall, I would like to actually see a reference to the Computer Misuse Act within the guidance, because it's not actually there in the laws which may apply, because I think that's important as well. Just saying.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So while the revised guidance is a welcome step forward, particularly in recognising the role councils play in moderating online community forums, it does not yet fully deliver on the intent of the motion agreed by the council. Members specifically asked for a clear framework addressing fairness, transparency, inclusivity and political neutrality in the administration of these community spaces. As it stands, the document remains more focused on general social media contact and leaves too much open to interpretation, particularly around moderating decisions and the distinction between private political pages and widely used community forums. Strengthening these areas would not only provide clarity for councillors, but also build public confidence that such forums are being managed in an open, consistent and impartial way. I urge members to vote against this and ask officers to look again and follow the ask of the motion. We were accused already this evening of being late with our motion, coming late to the table, so we're right at the front of the queue on this one. So I expect the Labour Green Coalition to take on board our comments, vote this down and ask officers to rethink. We will not be supporting this paper.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Needham.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to come back, just following up from what Councillor Taylor just said. We will be voting for this because we think it's decent guidance. I take on board what you're saying about it's not quite done what you want it to do. However, I don't think it's necessary or the best way to do it to keep constantly bringing this as a motion and voting it down and sending it back. I think it might be more constructive just to sit down with officers and try and tweak it a little bit and try and get what you want from it that way. So we will be voting for it for that reason, so that we've got something there. But I take your point that it's missed some of what you wanted it to do. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Needham. So I see no one else in the queue. So Councillor Blackshaw, you have reserved your right to speak.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to give thanks to the staff that worked so hard on this, and also to the industry expert who worked with them, who has rightly kept the guidance within the council's own reach. Social media has transformed the way local politicians can communicate. It's transformed the way all people can communicate with each other. It gives us the opportunity to listen and explain, to share information quickly and to reach people who may not be able to attend or watch the meetings online, rather than engaging through traditional channels. And that opportunity does come with responsibility. We have to use platforms honestly, respectfully, and constructively, and to have genuine conversations built on trust. Social media should bring communities closer together and not create more division. And well used, it is a powerful tool for democracy. Again, I'd like to thank the officers and the experts involved.
Thank you, Councillor Blackshaw. I call on Councillor Mear to sum up.
Cheers. Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I want to thank the LGA and the industry expert, obviously, for going through this. And Councillor Monk, I'll come to your questions in a moment, but I also want to thank our officers. I think they were given a thankless task to try and find something that would fit the Conservative narrative, and unfortunately, once our officers have gone out there isn't anything out there that says councillors should be politically constrained on their social media. And I don't, if it was out there, there'd be case law and or cases of it, and it'll be here. But I just wanted to thank everybody there, and also thank everybody who's contributed to this debate. It's been useful. Councillor Taylor, let's move to you first. Unfortunately, you're not at the front of the queue. This policy was circulated to group leaders, and I'm astonished that you and Councillor Monk have come to this meeting and have asked for this. It should have actually gone through your group leaders. I circulated to my cabinet members and I said, are there any queries or comments on this? And I'm not sure why your leadership didn't circulate it to yourselves as well to get feedback as well, because that would have been valuable before it came to full council. We could have explored things potentially further. You know, we've gone out, we've had a look. Officers have worked hard, they've found industry experts, and this guidance does nearly everything that has been asked for. We cannot get, I think, any motion passed through this chamber that politically constrains an individual councillor out on their social media. Ultimately, it's for council to debate this motion, but it can't enforce something that it can't enforce. So I'm happy with the guidance. We've circulated it in group leaders. All group leaders have come back to say that they were happy with it. Actually, strike that from record. They haven't come to say they're happy. They haven't come back to say they're not happy with it. So I'm happy to propose this motion to the floor.
Thank you, Councillor Mayor. So before putting it to the vote, unfortunately, I was notified that one of the councillors had to leave during the meeting, which means you know who you are then. So you can't vote for this item. So sorry about that. So again, with a show of hands, can I see those in favour of the motion? Right. Can I see those against the motion?
So the motion is carried. Unless, can you just check if there's any abstentions?
Yeah. Are there any abstentions to this motion?
Okay. Yes, the motion is carried.
Okay, thank you. The motion is carried. Actually, what I'm going to do now, because we've been talking for quite a while, so do people want a quick break?
No?
No? You just want to go for it? Right?
No.
Okay, those that say let's go for it, you take the heat from other people that want to break. Okay. Okay, right, moving on to item 7, call-in references. There are no call-in references from scrutiny. Moving on to item 8, position statements. There is a position statement on page 46 of the supplementary agenda about the National Planning Policy Framework. The position statement will be introduced, and after that, councillors who wish to can speak for up to 2 minutes each, and the discussion can last for up to 20 minutes. At the end of the discussion, there will be a summary. So moving on, 8.1, National Planning Policy Framework, which is in your agenda supplement. So I call on Councillor Worrell to introduce the position statement regarding the National Planning Policy Statement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I firmly believe that everyone who needs a home should be able to access a decent home. And in response to the national shortfall of housing, the government has set an ambitious target of building 1.5 million new homes before the end of this Parliament. These include affordable homes, social housing, and homes for the open market. To achieve this, it has made changes to national policy, legislation and guidance. This includes the NPPF, which was published for consultation in December 2025. This administration provided a comprehensive and strong response to the consultation. In addition, we also wrote to the Secretary of State expressing our concern regarding the process for housing delivery targets when they are not being met. As we all know, the local plan provides a framework and a starting point for identifying land for development and planning decisions on planning applications. As part of the planning process, the Council secures developer contributions towards the infrastructure through Section 106 and the Community Infrastructure Levy, which is being introduced this summer. This will provide additional funding towards the provision of infrastructure within communities affected by development. Our administration shares the concern that have been raised in relation to the impact from national policy on the local plan. We will have further information on the weight national policy will have in favour of local policy when the final version of the NPPF is published. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Worrell. I don't see any councillors. Is there any councillor wish to speak? Can you indicate? Oh, Councillor Needham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll try and keep this brief because we are having quite a long evening. Thank you, Councillor Worrell, and the officers that no doubt helped with this response. It was very thorough, but it does seem to confirm that the proposed changes could give greater weight to national planning policy and more development in the countryside, and potentially reduce the influence of our recently adopted local plan. So no one's arguing that we don't need homes, but one of the strongest messages I hear, and I'm sure every councillor in this room hears from residents, is not simply concerns about individual developments. It's a growing sense of powerlessness. So people are encouraged to engage in consultations, neighbourhood plans, local plans, planning applications, only to then get told that national policy is quite likely going to override local views and locally agreed policies. And that's really damaging confidence in both the planning system and local democracy. Residents and councillors were told that adopting a local plan would provide greater certainty and stronger protections. But given these proposed national changes, I'm just wondering what practical steps can the council take to protect the integrity of that local plan and ensure that policies that we have that were designed to protect our village identities and genuine sustainable development still continue to carry real weight in those planning decisions. So if national policy is moving decision making further away from our local communities, are there proactive steps that this council could take or are prepared to take to ensure that residents in Charnwood don't lose their voice in shaping the future of those places where they live? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Needham. I don't see anyone indicating they wish to speak. So can I call on Councillor Worrell to sum up?
Thank you. I agree that there are concerns amongst residents, and I do hear those myself. And we all, as an administration, share those concerns. And what we will do is pay close attention to the NPPF when the final document is published sometime over the summer. We will particularly check it against policies in the local plan to identify areas where they are not aligned with the new NPPF. As the final document has not yet been published, we don't know at the moment to what extent comments from the consultation have been taken on board and what specifically the impact will be on the Charnwood local plan. I also understand the concerns that you've expressed regarding the cumulative impact from development which threatens the identity of localities, the expansion into green areas, increased pressure on road networks, education and health, to just mention a few. I believe it is fair to say that this is perhaps not new. It has happened throughout history in response to work opportunities, industrial development, and for people to find a better life with better living conditions. And what we are faced with today is a housing crisis based on house building not keeping up with increased demand for many years. It's a difficult balance, and I accept and perhaps regret that houses will be built in areas which may not be popular amongst local residents. But to support the changing need arising from development, as I mentioned earlier, the development contributions are secured as part of the planning process to enhance and improve the infrastructure particularly. And community organisations and resident organisations can take an active part in this during the planning process by identifying specific infrastructure needs that they can evidence and will actually arise from those new developments. As an example, and I'm sure you might already be aware, Sileby was awarded funding for 4 different sporting projects last year. 2 of those received contributions of £150,000 each to improve and enhance sporting facilities for an increased number of users of all age groups. And in addition, as you will be aware too, I believe, 15 to 25% of community infrastructure levy will be made available to parishes to spend on infrastructure projects within the communities where new development is taking place. And the parishes themselves will be making the decisions as to how this funding is best spent to meet their infrastructure needs. And finally, I just want to make you aware that in relation to road networks and transport, which I think are always of concern in connection with new development, The government is currently working on guidance and policy in relation to developing vision-led transport planning, which will include the cumulative impact. Rather than at the moment, I think we have been seeing, some of the piecemeal, perhaps, decisions being made in relation to transport and to road networks. Having said all of this, as I said earlier, we do share the concerns and we will provide councillors with more information when we have had time to digest the main implications from the new MPPF and how these will be managed in the best possible way for Charnwood. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Worrell. There's no vote in this, so this is noted. Okay. This motion is. Thank you. We're now moving on to item 10, which is questions on notice. Now, as a reminder, the questions that councillors have submitted and the answers to them are in the supplement pack. I will call on those councillors who have indicated that they wish to ask a supplementary question. Supplementary questions must relate directly and exclusively to the question submitted, and any other supplementary questions will not be permitted. Each councillor will have 1 minute to ask the supplementary question, and the councillor responding will also be able to speak for up to 1 minute. So, item 10.1, Disabled Facilities Grant. Councillor Deborah Taylor, would you like to ask your supplementary question?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Given that the substantial proportion of this funding has not been utilised in each of the years listed, could the Leader explain why this is the case and what steps are being taken to ensure residents are not waiting unnecessarily for essential adaptations? And would the Leader agree that consistently underspending Disabled Facilities Grant funding is failing residents who need tiny adaptations to live safely and independently, and commit to bringing forward a clear plan to improve delivery?
Councillor Tillotson, do you wish to respond?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think it's pleasing to see that we have improved the amount that we spent over the 3 years indicated, and it takes time to get work authorised and completed, and I believe it's satisfactory the way that we have actually managed to do that, particularly in the previous year where we were able to spend over £1 million. And of course, this doesn't cover council housing, which is funded, adaptations to council housing is funded through the HRA, not through this grant.
Thank you. Item 10.2, support for residents at Martin Court. Councillor Deborah Taylor, would you like to ask your supplementary question?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Given that support appears to rely heavily on residents navigating the allocation system themselves, does the Leader accept this may disadvantage more vulnerable residents? And what additional proactive measures are being taken to ensure no one is left behind during this process? And would the Leader agree that simply providing access to Band D priority is not in itself a guarantee of timely rehousing, and commit to closely monitoring outcomes and reporting back on whether residents are being rehoused within a reasonable time frame?
Councillor Tillotson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We are moving forward with this. We are well supporting the residents. We shall have a new member of staff who we expect to start next month, who will be specifically providing additional support to these tenants to make sure that their housing needs are met. We're already allocating, a number have already been allocated properties. So we are moving forward, and I believe that the staff are doing a decent job here.
Thank you. Item 10.3, General Fund. Councillor Baines, would you like to ask your supplementary question?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I do feel like I've been a bit fobbed off with the answer, although I appreciate the guidance on the process. But what I was hinting at with the question was what the administration want to do with the considerable sums of money left over at the end of the year. And I don't feel like we've got any kind of answer to that. And that's not necessarily reliant upon the process, because we know either way there's going to be a substantial chunk of money available at the end of the year. So I was asking essentially asking what the administration are minded to do with the spare cash at the end of the year.
Thank you. Councillor Ashcroft, do you wish to respond?
Okay. Yeah, it's quite clear that there's a sequence of events here. We're still writing the outturn reports. Once we've finished the outturn reports that were published as indicated in the answer, then we discuss that and then we start planning what we're doing with the funds for the following years. It should be really preemptive to start saying what we're doing with funds we've not even finalised at this point in time.
Thank you. Moving on to item 10.4, antisocial behaviour. Councillor Needham, would you like to ask your supplementary question?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you to the member for the response and also to the officers and the partner agencies that are always involved in this work. I know that the cases are really challenging for everybody and they're rarely straightforward to resolve, but the response tended to focus on response times and process. But from a resident's perspective, the key question is whether the behaviour actually stops. So do we actually measure do we know how long victims of antisocial behaviour, particularly persistent antisocial behaviour, how long do they typically wait before a case is satisfactorily resolved? So if we're not measuring that, can we be confident that the system is actually delivering good outcomes for residents? So obviously I know you can't answer that tonight, but I'd be really interested to know how long that takes and to see that data behind resident satisfaction. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Blackshaw, do you wish to respond?
Thank you, Councillor Needham, and I will endeavour to find out that information for you. Every ASB case is assessed and risk and monitored, and you know sometimes it takes a lot of time to get the different partner agencies involved and to provide the information. And it's important that we get the right resolution, not the quickest resolution, and that's why sometimes some cases take longer than others.
Thank you. So moving on to item 11, minute references. There are no minute references. So item 12, urgent executive decisions exempted from call-in, and that's on page 165 of your papers. This is a report to inform the Council of decisions that were exempted from call-in in accordance with Scrutiny Committee Procedure 11.9. If any councillors would like to speak, can you please indicate using your console? I'm seeing no indication, so I will then move on to item 13, delegation of executive functions. There are no changes to the delegation of executive functions to report. I now move on to item 14, appointments to committees. And now I do understand there are some changes to committee memberships, so I call on Councillor Boker to propose the item.
I propose that the following committee appointments be made. Councillor Harper Davis be appointed to the Finance and Performance Scrutiny Committee, replacing Councillor Charles. Councillor Monk be appointed to the Scrutiny Commission, replacing Councillor Harper Davis. And Councillor Rattray to become Chair of the Scrutiny Commission, with Councillor Charles remaining a member of that committee.
Can we have a seconder?
I second this, Mr Mayor.
Okay. If any councillors would like to speak, please indicate using your console. I'm seeing no indication, so I call on Councillor Boker to sum up.
I have nothing further to add, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. So I can now put the motion to the vote. So those in favour, please show your hands.
Unanimous. Yeah, unanimous, Mr Mayor.
Right, that is unanimous. So that is the close of business. So thank you for attending the meeting. So I'm glad it went fairly well this evening for me. Okay, so this is the last meeting before, well, until after the summer. So the next scheduled meeting of the council is scheduled for the 14th of September 2026. So everyone enjoy your summer holidays and have a good break. Thank you.